So, hello everyone, Kia ora. My name is Priyanka Meen, the host of today's webinar, and I'm delighted to welcome you to today's pre-departure briefing. And in this session, which is organized by Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited, which is us, we aim to provide you with all the essential information which you would need before relocating to New Zealand. So before we get started, I would just like to mention that there is a Q&A box where you can ask your questions related to any topic we discuss or anything else you would like to know. And we will address those questions once we are done with the presentation. All right, with that said, we will move to our first slide. So moving ahead, Tanuwa, if you could just move to the next slide. All right, so the photograph that you see on this slide shows the location of our office on the very famous Simon Street in Auckland. So as we move to the first photograph, so Tanuwa, if you could just come back, showing a office building. Yes, the previous one. So this is our office, which is located at 71 Simon Street in Grafton, Auckland. You will find us here on the sixth floor, which is entirely ours, where you can come, meet, and greet our members. So the building that you see, you will get to see the different angles of that building. So Simon Street, just to give you a little bit of information, it is the hub of educational institutes. Many educational providers are based nearby. The bus stop is right opposite the building, making it easily accessible. The road runs southwest and uphill from the top of Anzac Avenue through the city campus of the very famous University of Auckland. There are other institutes as well, like NZMA, Whitecliff, AUT, UB School of Design, Cowrie Academy, Victoria University of Wellington City Campus, and University of Otago City Campus. So now you could imagine with so many educational providers around, you can imagine how busy the street gets, which you will get to see on the next slide. If we move to the next slide, please. Yes, here in this photo, you can see that there are many international and domestic students, and these photographs are clicked from our office itself. The photo that you see at the center, that has been clicked from our office, where you can see a little bit on top the sea, which is also called as the Auckland Harbour. The building next to ours is the Cordis Hotel, a major five-star hotel in the area. The Queen Street runs parallel to Simon Street, and it is just down 3 kilometers the road. You will find the Auckland Harbour, offering a beautiful ocean view. So this is all about in and around our office. So moving to the next slide, you will get to see our onshore staff. Next slide, please. So this is our onshore staff, which is engaged in different activities and events. They're meeting with education providers, the students, and their families. And they're also participating in the fun activities. If you will be surprised if you go and meet them, that the onshore staff is diverse and they will actually speak your language. So we have Kesang, who speaks Nepali. We have Jazz, who speaks Filipino. Guyana, who speaks Sinhala. Amy, who speaks Chinese. And Tirat, who speaks Hindi and Punjabi. And of course, everyone speaks English besides these language. So yeah, with that said, I will now quickly introduce our speakers, who are our two licensed immigration advisors, Ms. Vandana Rai and Ms. Tanuma Mazumdar Bose. So Ms. Vandana Rai is a highly experienced immigration advisor who has been helping students and families successfully navigate the complexity of New Zealand immigration for over 10 years. She holds a comprehensive understanding of immigration policies and procedures and has a proven track record in securing positive outcomes for her clients. Her expertise lies in student visa, work visas, family reunification. Her dedication to providing personalized and effective guidance has made her a trusted advisor for many of us. And with Miss Vandana Rai, we also have Miss Tanua Mazumdar Bose, who is another cornerstone of our advisory team. And she, if I have to talk about her immigration knowledge, she has dealt with immigration from both the spectrums. She had been an immigration manager with Immigration New Zealand for over 20 years, and then now she's assisting immigrate. She is a licensed immigration advisor, where she specializes in student visas, skilled migrant visas, and partnership visas. Her strategic insights and attention to detail have helped numerous clients achieve their immigration goals with confidence and ease. So, with this, I would like to welcome both the speakers, Ms. Vandana Rai and Ms. Tanuva Mazumdar Bose, to take us through the next segment of our briefing. So, yes, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Priyanka. A big thanks for all the attendees to come on a Saturday morning in India and a Saturday evening if you've already reached New Zealand. Such a great moment for all of you. You've got your visa approved, looking forward to start your studies. Heartiest congratulations to all of you. As Priyanka has conveyed, we have our office based in Auckland, and I'm aware that most of you or a lot of you would be studying in Auckland. So please do drop in whenever you are close by. We'd love to have a cup of tea or coffee together, answer all your questions, and make sure that we hold your hands from the time you start studying till the time your family is well established here in New Zealand. So thank you for attending this webinar today. The scope is highlighted on the screen. So we would try and cover all these topics, and by the end of the session, you would have information on all these and know everything that you should be aware of when you are coming and studying here in New Zealand. Please make sure to put on your questions in the Q&A box, and we would answer your questions at the end of this presentation. If you can have the next slide, please.
Yeah, and just to add to that, so we just sort of, put together a few of the topics which we thought would be really close to your hearts and the things that you're probably struggling with right now. But, we may not have covered the entire gamut of questions going through your head. So please definitely use the opportunity and definitely use that Q&A box to put in your question, because this is the fantastic opportunity for you guys, all of you. You've already got your visas. That's one milestone already achieved. But now begins the true, test of your journey, because now you have to actually make the move to New Zealand, set up your life there. And I'm quite sure making that move is actually really big for a lot of you out there. And I'm sure there are like a gazillion questions going through your heads right now. So we've sort of put together a few things that might be important. But if there are anything else, any other question that's sort of bothering you, please do not hesitate to put it out into the question answer box. And please understand, no question is a silly question or a stupid question or anything. And you may never know, question going through your head could be going through somebody else's as well. So you might actually be able to help each other out as well. And it could actually be a beginning of a nice journey and friendship from this webinar only onwards. So yeah, so please use that Q&A box.
Yeah, and the first thing comes first. You all have been granted a student visa, so you should be aware of your student visa conditions because it is your responsibility to meet them. If you unintentionally breach a visa condition, uh, you could have serious repercussions. So make sure that you are aware of all your student visa conditions. You've read your visa carefully and know everything that you should or should not be doing. Study requirements. So your course is listed on your visa, your provider is listed on your visa, your campus is listed on your visa. You are also required to study full time. If you do not attend your classes at all times, if your attendance is low, if you fail your papers, immigration would consider it as a breach of visa condition. So please make sure that you do not get into that situation. If you are unwell, make sure that you get medical assistance, you get a medical record to prove that, and if that you're missing your classes, or inform your tutor on time. If you are unable to pass, or if you start the course and if you realize you need academic support, please make sure that you take that on time, because failing a paper could mean breach of your student visa from immigration's perspective. So you don't want to get there. Work rights. Another thing that the students should be very mindful of. Your visa may allow you to work part-time while you study, and full-time when you are on your scheduled vacations or summer vacations. But read the visa carefully. For some courses, maybe you don't have work rights. So make sure that you've read the condition that you have work rights. Even if you have the work rights, it may be you can work 20 hours a week while your study term. And a lot of employers in New Zealand pay you fortnightly. So even if you are paid fortnightly, if you've worked maybe 15 hours in a week, that doesn't allow you to work more than 20 hours in the following week, even if the payment is coming for the fortnight together. We've seen a lot of students get into this trouble and breach their visa unintentionally, thinking that maybe if they work 40 hours fortnight, that's okay. That's not okay if you've exceeded 20 hours a week in any particular week, and if your visa only allows you that. So please be careful on that. Financial obligations, you are required to have sufficient funds to cater for your living costs while you're studying. You have a financial guarantor, you may have a sponsor, or you may have your own funds. So it is very important that you have access to the funds that you've shown overseas while you are studying. Or it could again be considered as a breach if immigration sees that you are living off your part-time work wages and you don't have access to the funds that you had initially shown. So make sure that you always have that access. Your passport remains valid if your passport is about to get expired in next few months, or before your post-study work visa duration, make sure you get that renewed on time. And compliance, be very careful on that. We've seen a lot of students get into drink driving, rash driving kind of uh, convictions. And if you get into a situation like that, your visa could be declined unless a character waiver is granted. So we've kind of given you a brief of the visa conditions. Make sure that you are aware of that and don't breach any of the conditions.
Yeah, and just adding on to what Vanna, you've said, things about compliance and having the funds. You have to be very prepared that you may not get a part-time job, the minute you land in New Zealand, and you're already going to a new country. You already have a few sort of challenges to work through. You don't want money to be another challenge in your way. So make sure that you take enough to at least sustain you for the first few months, because you never know when you will be able to land that part-time job. And fantastic if you're able to do it fairly soon upon arriving in New Zealand, but be mentally prepared that you might not get a part-time role right off the bat. So take that take that money, take ensure that you have that enough to sort of sustain your living expenses. Also, compliance is an extremely important thing, and we've seen so many of the students who sort of think that how things like drinking and driving is sort of considered in their home country, it may be playing the same way in New Zealand, but that's not the case. They're actually fairly strict about speed limits. They're fairly strict about drink and driving. So you have to be very, very mindful that whilst you should go out and have some fun and make friends and all of that. But New Zealand is fairly strict around a lot of, their sort of legal things. So make sure that you don't do anything that jeopardizes that for you, because it can have ramifications on not only your current visa but your subsequent visas as well. So we don't want to scare you, but please just keep these in mind, bear them in mind whenever you are, whatever you're doing in New Zealand. So the next sort of thing that we'll talk about is about medical and travel insurance. Now, most of you would already have health insurance, because that is a part of your student visa requirements. Uh, be good enough to actually review what your health insurance says, know what it says, know what your what your rights are, know what you are covered, know what treatments are covered under that insurance, what is the insurance limit, how you can claim your insurance. So all of that information you should know. So please definitely go through the insurance documents, so all of that information is front of mind for you. You can also consider taking a travel insurance whilst not mandatory. It could be something that you can consider taking because it sort of protects you against any mishap that may occur during the travel. So it can cover lost baggages, it can cover delays in your journey, things like that. So you might think about taking a travel insurance. Again, as I said, not mandatory, but maybe a good thing to have.
Yeah, and if I can add on to that, some of you may have some pre-existing medical conditions. So if you have a pre-existing medical condition, please make sure that you read your insurance documents carefully and see how that is to be declared on time, or else that may not be covered on your insurance. So make sure that you do that. Other than that, ACC, if you get into an accident, that's covered by ACC in New Zealand. So if you happen to have you trip and fall or other things, then you're not required to use your insurance, and it's all covered by ACC, the medical costs and everything. Yeah. Next slide, please. We now talk about bringing family to New Zealand. A lot of the attendees have a family. It can be partner, husband, wife, kids, and we wanted to give information on what are the options for them. So you need to first thing check what is the eligibility for visas for partners and dependent children. Some courses allow partners to have work rights. Some courses allow partners to have visitor rights. So, and every member, like the applicant, will have to submit a separate application. Unlike Australia or other countries where one application goes for the entire family, in New Zealand, every applicant has to submit a separate application. Make sure that you have suitable accommodation for your family members before they arrive, so the family is quite comfortable moving in and relocating. If you have dependent children, you must do your research and see which school would they be comfortable going in. So in New Zealand, there are school zones. So and priority is given to the kids or the children who are residing in the school zone. So what a lot of students and a lot of temporary visa holders or New Zealanders do it, they first select the school that they want the kids to go in, and then get accommodation in that zone, so the kids will then be allowed to attend the schools in that zone. And as a dependent child student visa, your children would be entitled to domestic fee student fees. That means they can study for free. So definitely you need to do a bit more research on what the kids' requirement is and what the schools are offering, maybe before you finalize your accommodation. And if you've already applied for your partner's application and the decision hasn't come, so please be mindful of the processing times for immigration. So you plan your travel in line with what the processing times are. There may be a short separation period, and if that, you need to make arrangements for the family. It may so happen that your start date is a bit later and the family is able to travel together. Whatever the case be, you should be aware of the exact time frames. Um, and you must be aware of the cultural support, the available resources for the family, and have a realistic figure on the financial requirements while you are there in New Zealand. So, if you're relocating with family, having access to sufficient funds while the family is there just allows everyone to probably transition into a new country, relocate more easily. So, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Vanna. So I will just touch very briefly about schooling for children. So just say sorry. So as Vanna already said, that they are all zoning, and that there are zoning sort of rules there, which means that the schools will give preference to kids in a particular area. But just building on from there, it is that it is mandatory for all children, aged 6 to 16, to be actually enrolled in schools and studying. And if your children is on a dependent child student visa, then they actually are eligible to be considered a domestic student. So it is, just make sure that you sort of pick your school, pick your accommodation accordingly, and put your child in in one of the schools. Do your research well. You can in fact already start doing that research from while you are outside of New Zealand. But again, having said that, it might work better for you when you are in New Zealand as well. But just be mindful of what are the sort of terms, because they usually start in January or February. So the new school terms start around that time. So if you've already missed that, then what are the other options and things like that are probably things that you need to consider before you actually make the move. Also, New Zealand schools will provide additional support in terms of English language, or if your child somehow needs special classes, and all of that support system is also available in all the schools. So if there are some of those specific needs that you think your child will need, then those are again considerations you make when you are selecting the appropriate school for your kids. Now that is for 5 years and over, but for 0 to 5 years also, there are certain support that is available, which is 20 hours of early childhood, support that is provided, and that is provided free of cost. So make use of that as well, for if you've got children in that sort of age group. Just when you're doing those kind of decisions around which early childhood sort of setup you put your child in, choose the ones that are registered, because they obviously have all the checks and balances in place to ensure that your child is taken care of. And that age is very sensitive, very vulnerable, so you don't really want to subject them to things which you don't know. So it's always good to go to registered practitioners for this kind of thing. So, Vanna, anything else we can sort of covered with that early childhood aspect?
I think you've covered most of it. So another thing I would just like to add on is that even though we've talked about zones, we talked about doing your research on the school. So sometimes then you have to do a weigh and balance and see what is better. Maybe getting an accommodation closer to your school may work out better for the family, because then you can easily attend your classes, go pick up the child. Whereas if you get a accommodation far away from your school, may not work while you are studying. So whatever you may do should not compromise your ability to do the course, because the prime motive for you to be in New Zealand is for you to study. And if anything hinders in that, definitely that could have serious implications. Yeah, over to the next slide, please.
And again, just remember where we are. We are there. So you have questions. You don't need, if you can't take those decisions right now and you need some help navigating all these things, please feel free to walk into our office in Auckland. As Priyanka showed you, it's a lovely place to come to.
Okay, so the work rights for partners. Which are the courses which give them the work rights. So anybody who's doing a master's program, anybody who's doing a PhD, definitely allow gives the partners an eligibility to submit a partner of a student work visa, wherein the partner will have open work conditions. Another good news for a lot of applicants whose partners were previously may not be eligible for visitor for work visa, but now are. And there has been an announcement made by immigration yesterday, and as per that announcement, few other groups of courses and applicants will and students will now be able to support partners for work rights. Somebody who's doing a bachelor's program for a course which is in the green list, or for a course which leads to an occupation which is in the green list, like teachers, like nurses. So these the changes that have taken place yesterday for partners work rights actually impacts the courses that were on the green list, level 8 courses, and the nursing and teaching programs at bachelor's level and level 8 level. At level 8. So these programs were previously not giving work rights to partners, but the partners can now um, apply for a work visa as well. Partners will have open work conditions. They can work for any employer anywhere in New Zealand. Definitely need to meet the partnership instructions. So that is that if they are in a genuine relationship and they have lived long enough to meet the living together instructions. And we are happy to answer your questions if you have anything on the partnership instruction space. Feel free to connect with us. Um, the, the immigration assesses partnerships very differently. They would need to see whether the relationship is genuine. They would have to see whether the intent behind getting into the relationship was genuine. They would also have to see whether your relationship is most likely to be endured, and whether you've been living in together in that genuine relationship long enough. And we are happy to provide you with the checklist and submit the partner's application as the need be. The duration for partners visa would be the same duration as you get your student visa for. And when you apply for your student visa extension, the partners can also then apply for their partnership based work visa as extension. When you get your post study work visa, partners can then again be eligible for applying for a partnership based work visa. Um, and then another thing here is that there are certain courses where partners are not eligible for work visa, but New Zealand really believes a lot on family unification. So what that means is, if you're doing a course at a sub degree level, a diploma, and your partner is not eligible for work visa, then don't worry. Your partner can still accompany you, or you can be together as a family unit. The partner in that case could be eligible for a partnership based visitor visa, and you don't have a maximum duration of stay on that visitor visa. So usually a visitor visa duration is maximum for 9 months in New Zealand, where however, this maximum duration doesn't apply if somebody is applying for a partner of a student visitor visa or any other partnership based visitor visa. Yeah.
All right. So now we just come to the part where we talk about what all you can sort of bring into New Zealand. So New Zealand does have some very strict laws around what products can be brought in and what needs to stay out. In fact, don't be surprised that when you land and you're going to pick up your luggage, you will have sniffer dogs roaming the airport, because they are actually they're trained dogs are there to sort of sniff in, find out if you're carrying anything that you should not be. So make sure that before you pack things, that you actually check the customs website for New Zealand to see whether you can actually carry those things or not. The rule of thumb is, whatever you're carrying, please declare it on the arrival card. Don't try to hide it, because that just gets you into more trouble. If you've declared it, the worst that can happen is they will tell you, I'm sorry, but this cannot enter New Zealand. But if you don't declare it and it gets found later, then you'll have to pay a fairly hefty fine. So if you don't want to get into that sort of hassle, first check the website, and second, if you're carrying anything, please declare it. I'm sure you would think that you might not get the food that you are used to in your home country, and you might be tempted to carry a lot of it. Just don't. Maybe some of the dry things you could, but anything that is wet is usually a very big no no. But again, check the customs website before you do your final sort of packing. I mean, I could cite an example where once Harbhajan Singh, one of India's great cricket players, went to New Zealand to play one of the matches, and he was actually fined because his shoe had some dirt on it that was not acceptable. And that sort of got him into a little bit of a mess. Maybe that's taking a bit far, but I'm just trying to say that it is actually a pretty big thing. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, and like as Tanwa said, if you are in doubt, just declare. So, if you're not very sure, just declare. Another thing I'd like to add on here is if you are on medication and if you're taking any prescription medication, make sure that you don't take it for more than 3 months and you do keep your prescription with you, for any reference and declare it again. Yeah. If you can move to the next slide, please. Yeah, what are the accommodation options in New Zealand? So, sometimes you will have to see what is best fitting your requirements, but the various options are you could probably be on the campus accommodation. There are halls of residence managed by the universities or the tertiary providers. There are student apartments on campus. You could decide to live off campus, and if you're planning to live off campus, you will have to then take a decision whether you stay close to the campus so you can commute easily, or if your studies is maybe 1 or 2 days a week, would you like to move a bit far away where the rent could be a bit less? So again, it's really depends on what your circumstances are. Or subsequently, when you get a part-time work rights with part-time job, maybe then you decide uh, whether you stay close to your work, close to your study. Those are the things which you would later have to then see. Off-campus accommodations could be you could rent an apartment, you could share a house, you could have a flatting arrangements, you could have a homestay with a local family, or you could have the entire apartment as a rental. So whatever be your circumstances, few options. Must keep budget in consideration because individual rentals could be a bit higher. University accommodation could be um, expensive than flatting, but they could be more um, focus on studies when you are living on campus. So really take a call there after you've reached. Initial few days, you could also, another thing which a lot of students do is that the initial accommodation is only booked for 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, maybe 1 week. So once you're there and if you've seen all kind of situations, you then plan. So please do not pre-book long-term accommodation without actually being in New Zealand, because then you would not have anticipated few things. Yeah. And the facilities also. A lot of accommodations have internet, water, electricity, and just be mindful that in New Zealand, water bills are actually on a higher end. So people at times have a jokingly say that it's cheaper to drink maybe juice in New Zealand than drinking water. So yeah, the next slide, please.
Yeah, I think that sort of segues very nicely into this cost of living part. So, yeah, so if you look at the screen over here, just sort of gives you a very average ballpark figures on what it could cost you. Again, as Vanna very clearly said, that it really depends on where you pick up your accommodation. So while in urban areas, the monthly I mean, if you're renting a one bedroom apartment in an urban sort of city kind of place, it could cost you anything between $1,200 to $2,000 a month. Most of the rent is actually taken a weekly, so that usually is the payment cycle rather than a monthly rent. So that is perhaps one thing you need to be a little you should know about that. But again, if you were to move to flatting arrangement or decide to live in the suburbs, then you can significantly bring down that accommodation cost. Again, public transport, whilst available, and they will vary according to where you are, again, where you are residing. In the cities, the public transportation available is likely to be perhaps more than if you are living in the suburbs, but then there is good train connectivity and stuff like that. And again, that could cost you anything between $2 to $5 a trip. You can also buy monthly transport passes, which actually might just turn out to be more economical, especially if you need to do that travel quite often. Grocery for an individual is around 300 to $500. Again, see how it goes where you are picking up these things from. There are a lot of places where you can get produce, fresh produce. You have marts, you have supermarkets. So a whole raft of choices you will have from where you can pick up your groceries and monthly utilities and stuff like that. Again, Let's not forget entertainment, because we need to be entertained as well while we are studying and doing all these other things. So you can budget about $100 to $200 for the entertainment, which could be watching a movie, going out to eat, and all of that stuff. Again, just a walk to the New Auckland Harbor is beautiful, and you don't need to spend any money on that. So you can consider that as well when you're thinking about entertaining yourselves. Okay.
Yeah. And now we come on working in New Zealand on a student visa. So we've touched it briefly in the previous slide. So again, we're repeating part-time work rights. And while you're studying, read the conditions carefully. Sometimes the conditions may be written differently from what you have perceived. So make sure that there's no confusion on there. Uh, and what are the employment conditions? Will you be allowed to work? If yes, how many hours and everything? Make sure that you read your visa label very carefully. Study is definitely the obligation, your prime motive to be in New Zealand. Don't compromise on that. You have a tax obligation with IRD. When you open the account in New Zealand, you will have to give your overseas TIN or a PAN number or the income tax number. And when you start working, you will have to give your IRD number. So you will have to register yourself with Inland Revenue Department in New Zealand. And when you are working in an employment, the taxes are deducted from your salary before you are paid. So you don't have to really worry about paying your taxes, but you need to have your IRD number to give to your employer so your tax could be deducted. And one thing which you have to be careful and mindful is if you can only work 20 hours a week, you cannot be self-employed. We've seen previously a lot of students getting it wrong and then getting their subsequent visas decline. Self-employed is considered a serious breach. And few examples of self-employment is if you drive and become an Uber driver, or if you get into Uber delivery, which seems quite convenient for students to do because then you could probably do these things at your own time and convenience. But on a student visa, you are not allowed to do that because that's considered self-employment. Um, See what are the career services offered by the school, attend those career fairs, get into the networking events because a lot of jobs here in New Zealand are given on references and by networks. Um, Make sure that you attend those workshops. You know what the employers want because what your previous work experience or previous experience could be on getting jobs could be very different from what New Zealand employers expect. And as I previously said, work on building professional networks because that's what is going to get you subsequent jobs as well.
Yeah. And I think whatever you do with respect to your work, just be very mindful that you don't get exploited by New Zealand employers. Uh, and the one thing that can make you very vulnerable is if you really need to work and you are considering working more than 20 hours a week. So, the reason we are going over and over again the work rights allowed on your student visa is just so that you don't get into that whole web of being exploited. So be very, very wary, because if you are found, working unlawfully or exceeding your hours, it can have a very serious implications for your subsequent visas. So you've done a lot of investment into coming to New Zealand to study and get that qualification and get on your pathway to residence. You don't want small things like this, which can actually become big sort of hurdles in your achieving your final goal. So please take these things seriously and be a little bit more mindful. If you ever have questions around this, even once you are in New Zealand, please pick up that phone and talk to us, and we can help you take the right decision. So don't so at every stage before you think about doing things, just please think whether that is lawfully allowed or not. And if you have questions, please seek out a licensed immigration advisor to have that conversation. Okay, I think that sort of brings us to the end, and how we've gone on and on about contact us. So here is the slide that sort of gives you, a good information on how we can be, contacted. where you can find us. So we are located in the Auckland CBD area, which is basically the central business district. So we are bang in the middle of where everything is happening. Um, you can call us. So that's our landline number. Please put that number somewhere. I'm sure where you can access it easily whenever you want it. So give us a call. Let us know how we can help you. If you want to write us an email, please, the email address is office@nzimmigration.info. So don't hesitate to drop an email, even if it is to say that you have arrived and you're doing well. We would love to see your smiling face. So come into the office. We are located at 71 Simon Street. So come in, say hi. We'll also show you the view of the sea from our window. And you it would just be lovely to just meet you guys. That's all. Even if you don't have any issues, just come and meet us anyway. Have a cup of coffee with us. Just see what the office is like. And so that the next time you want to walk, if you have any issue, you know where you need to come, and you're not sort of getting lost somewhere in the middle. Again, if you have any other, I mean, if you've lost all of those details, we are there on Google. So please Google us. You will, if you put in Immigration Advisors New Zealand Limited, it'll come up with all our contact details all over again. So, without further ado, I think we'll just move into the question answer session. I hope all of you have already put your questions, in the Q&A box, and we will just one by one go through those now. So, Priyanka, can I hand over to you to lead the Q&A session, please?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, both of you. You all covered each and every topic beautifully. Yes, you'll have touched base upon all the important aspects, what they need to know while they transition to New Zealand. And like she has emphasized on our office, you'll have, I'm sure you'll must have made a note of where we are located and a number. In case if you'll have not, just Google it. Google helps everyone every time. So yes, so moving ahead, now we will move on to the Q&A session. We have received many questions. While we may not be able to address all of them, but we will try our best to select and answer the most relevant ones. That would cover a broad range of topics. So if your question isn't answered during this session, please feel free to reach out to us directly and we will be happy to help you. All right, with that said, let's begin with our first question. So the first question that I have over here is, I got student visa, my spouse has a work visa, and my kid has a visitor visa. Is it needed to buy a return ticket for the kid? Would one of you like to
So
take that up?
I take that. So it's an anonymous attendee, so I don't know what visitor visa the child has got. So if it's a general visitor visa, please read carefully what the outward travel is mentioned there. And if it's a dependent child visitor visa, outward travel is usually not needed, so you would not need to buy a ticket. But I cannot give a confirmed answer here because we definitely need to read the visa copy to see what visitor visa has the child applied and got and what are the conditions. Maybe if you read the outward travel, you would come to know, or feel free to share your visa copy with us so we can then advise. Over to you,
Thank
Priyanka.
you. Thank you for that. So the next one that we have, is it possible to change the college after the diploma? Would
So
one
I'll
of
take
you?
that one. So really, from what I understand, that somebody's coming here for diploma, and then after completing that program, Uh, change means maybe the intended program, the next course is what somebody is wanting to change. So I'll not say a yes or no here. I will tell you what are the things which immigration would like to see when you are wanting to change your further path, if I understand correctly. Suppose if you've come in for a diploma leading to a bachelor's, you want to change your bachelor's to a different bachelor's. Immigration definitely would like to see why do you want to change? If you initially had this plan, how come the plan has changed? If you are dropping your level, if you came for a bachelor's and then you want to drop to a level 6 or you're dropping your level, again immigration would need to know why. The aim is to to analyze whether you are a genuine student or not. So if your answers confirm you have a genuine intent to study, you can get your visa. If your answers reflect as if the intention is not to study but to remain in New Zealand and just work or maybe have a pathway, there could be concerns in there. So be careful of what the change you're getting into, and please take advice before you do anything.
Thank you. So the next one that we have, what are the things that I can do and avoid while traveling to New Zealand? I heard that the public transports are not reliable. Then what are the other options? So just the first bit of the question, what are the things that I can do and avoid? I think we had the entire session informing about what you could do and what you could not. While you're traveling to New Zealand, in case if you think you may have missed out, we will be publishing this particular webinar recording on our YouTube channel, which you can refer to. Talking about the next question, I heard that the public transports are not reliable. Ma'am, would you like to touch base upon that bit? What are the other
Yeah.
options?
So I would say, like whenever we were talking of accommodation, we were mentioning explore. Definitely, it's always better to live closer to your study place, to your university, to your closer to your education provider, so you don't really have to travel much. Definitely, there are issues or delays in public transport. There are some constructions going on in Auckland. We're talking about Auckland. Outside Auckland, not a problem. The you could stay closer to the campus. You are the one who have to work around this space. Okay, what are your study timings? What are the public transport timings? How much of a cushion you need to keep? For when is the if I miss a train, when is the next train? So probably every student works on these details, and you will also have to select your accommodation carefully and do all this research. Priyanka, before you move on to the next question, I see there's another question and I would like to take this before we move on. Somebody is asking, can I earn online through selling digital products while being a student? So if your employer is in New Zealand and you are working for that employer and selling products for that product by working for that New Zealand employer as an employee, you can work 20 hours a week. However, if you want to do it like self employed on your own, as I've previously conveyed, you cannot be self employed on a student visa. It could be considered as a breach of your student visa condition. Please stay away from that. Yeah. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you for covering that up. So the next question that we have is, after completing enrolled nursing course 18 months, how can I get to the pathway to PR? So
Okay.
probably someone is trying to ask general pathways available for international students to get a
I would.
PR?
Okay, so this is because it's specifically for enrolled nurse, I would say, and you can get your registration as an enrolled nurse. The registration application can go when you complete your course, and when you start working, you get a job offer as an enrolled nurse. Please be aware that enrolled nurse is in the green list, so you can then apply for your residence under the green list pathway. So as an enrolled nurse, you may have two options. If you have to see whether you go through the green list. Definitely that will work out to be much faster. For nursing, definitely enroll nursing is a program which has a very faster process leading to residence. However, the intakes are limited, the seats are limited, so whoever this student person is, have they given the name? So really lucky that you got the seat, and I would say you're really lucky that you got your visa approved. So kudos, congratulations, and we are happy to help in your residence process. Stay in touch when you're applying for your nursing registration, or if you have any question on the green list pathway. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you. The next one that we have a student studying at who will be studying at AUT. His classes will be starting from 15th of July, and his question is, I think everyone has got a common question. Before his course starts on 15th of July, can he work before his class starts? So in his student visa, they have mentioned that he can work. So he just wants to know before his course starts, can he work? Yes. Over to you, ma'am.
Okay, I'll take that one. If you read your visa and if it says on your student visa, you can work 20 hours a week and in your scheduled vacations can work full time. Please be aware that before your course starts, that period can never be considered as a scheduled vacation. So you cannot work more than 20 hours. But because you have a student visa, you are allowed to work 20 hours. You can even work 20 hours before your course starts because the student visa condition allows you to do that. Do not work more than 20 hours because this period is not your scheduled vacation, is what I'm trying to say. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you. The next one that we have, my course length is 1.6 years and I don't have any post-study work visa in my course. What should I do next? Could you recommend? So a person was doing a course of 1.6 years,
Yeah, I
one
would
and a
take
half
that.
year, yeah.
Please get in touch because with this information, we really cannot give any advice. So please get in touch. We need to know what your background is, what you're studying, what your pathway is. So please get in touch, and we'll probably give you an option. If I give you just the usual options, you will have to have an employer who could support you for an accredited employer work visa. So that's the the option, the pathway, but we definitely need to know more before we can give advice.
Yeah, just to add to that, guys, yes, there are pathways available, and we will only be able to advise you if we have your background or if you have your information. We have experienced licensed immigration advisors sitting over there in our Auckland office who would definitely be able to guide you with having the complete your background information. All right. So the next question is, in some part-time job advertisements, I see that employers they normally put a description saying should be flexible to work extra hours if needed. How will this impact? Would you be able to answer that?
Yeah, I can take that. So yeah, whilst an employer will always be very happy to have people work extra hours, but please be mindful that you on your student visa can only work for 20 hours per week. And if you do anything extra more than that, whilst you may make your employer happy, you will not make immigration happy. And you're likely to jeopardize your future visa options with that. So please do not be tempted to work more than 20 hours a week, except on your scheduled vacation. So if your employer requires you to do extra hours, please let them know when your scheduled vacations are, and then please tell them that yes, I'll be happy to work extra hours then, but not during the course of your study weeks, because that time you can only do 20 hours because that's what your student visa allows. Priyanka?
Thank you. Yes. So the next one that we have, how much money in cash or card can we bring with us while coming to New Zealand? Would one of you like to take that up?
Yeah, I
Do
can.
we have any? Yep.
Yeah.
Go for it, Vandana.
Okay, so can't bring more than 10,000 New Zealand dollars with you in cash. Better to get the money transferred. So you can open a New Zealand account even while you are offshore. So as soon as your visa is approved, please get your bank account open so you can transfer your living cost in the account before you come. If that is not possible, then you can travel to New Zealand, uh, enroll for the course, go and open your bank account. uh, when you go for the opening of your bank account, you would need your overseas tax number. You would also need a confirmation that you've enrolled for the course that you have, and also the place that you would be living in. So, with this information, you can open your account and then get the money transferred. So, please do not bring huge amount of cash with you when you are traveling. Yeah.
Thank
Over to
you.
you, Priyanka.
Thank you. So the next question that we have, my medical was done on 23rd of March and I've already received my AIP. Is it mandatory to have the medical valid when I'm landing in New Zealand? And what's the validity period for the medicals?
I can take that. Uh, so, if your medicals were already submitted with New Zealand immigration, so they are actually now, and you were considered as ASH, which I'm believing, I mean, or acceptable standard of health, which you would be if you've already got your visa or your AIP. Then those medicals are actually now valid for 36 months. So, or that is 3 years from the date that they were first issued. So not only do you not have to get your medicals done again before traveling to New Zealand, you actually don't have to get further medicals done even when you're applying for a post-study work visa, as long as you do it still, in those 36 months period. So any further temporary visas that you apply, or any further visas that you apply for, within those 36 months, you don't have to get your medicals done again.
Thank you. I'm just going to take the next question as we are heading towards the end of our webinar. I'm just going to take last two questions. So one question, I'm trying to make it generic. So this question is basically, if someone's passport expires while they're studying in New Zealand, will they be able to renew the passport from New Zealand itself?
Yeah,
Uh,
I can take that. Okay.
Sure.
Depend on your nationality, there could be different options. Definitely, you can extend your passport while you are in New Zealand. If you have an Indian passport, we have High Commission in Wellington, from where the passports could be issued. If you're from Sri Lanka, you will have to send it to the closest your embassy, which is in Canberra. And there is an option. And for Nepal, this can also be now renewed from New Zealand. So options for different nationalities. So you can get your passport renewed while you are in New Zealand. Make sure that you get it renewed definitely more than 6 to 8 months before it expires, because sometimes passport renewal can take time. And be mindful that if your visa is expiring, you will not be able to apply for your next visa if your passport validity is less than 3 months. So please be mindful of that.
Thank you. One last question. So we have got a question where someone is asking, can my dependent partner study either online or offline program while he is on an open work permit in New Zealand?
So
Would one
I
of you
can,
like to
yeah,
take that?
I
Yep.
can take that. So a partner on a work visa can definitely study. So if the partner wants to study less than 3 months, you don't have to even do anything. So any course less than 3 months could always be undertaken. If they want to study a course which is more than 3 months, they have two options. Either the partner can apply for a student visa and then study the course, or the partner can get a variation of condition done on the work visa. So the study condition gets listed on the work visa. So they can remain work on a work visa, they can keep working full time and also study the course that they want to. So if your partner is wanting to study a course, please get in touch and we can advise what could be the best option for them. Thank you.
I think
All
before we end,
right.
one
Yep.
question, Priyanka, is that if you're flying through Australia, then yes, you will need a transit visa. So if anybody's ticket is via Australia, please apply for your transit visas before you get on that plane.
Thank you. Yes. All right. With that said, we have now reached towards the end of our webinar, and I see there are a lot of questions which are still unanswered. So you already have our email address. Please get in touch with us on contact@nzimmigration.info, and we will be able to answer you. You have our numbers as well, so you all can get in touch with us. With that said, I would now like to wrap it up. But before I do this, I would just like to thank both our immigration advisors, licensed immigration advisors. Thank you for this beautiful insight and giving us a lot of information right now, uh, so that the students will definitely have information about what they need to do before they fly to New Zealand. So, with this, I would now like to say thank you to all of you all for joining us. Would you all just like to say last few words, both of you?
Yeah, thanks, Priyanka. I would like to tell the attendees here, if you want to keep getting the inputs from us, so if you want us to keep telling you what the latest is happening in the immigration space, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would be sending you a link after this webinar to do that. So if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, we'll make sure that we keep sending you updates so you know everything that is happening on the immigration side. Also share the link to subscribe with your friends. If you have your co-workers, if you have your relatives who are wanting to relocate or move to New Zealand, again, please do give them our reference, because what we've seen is if you are here in New Zealand alone, you may miss your family. And we've seen one student bringing in their friends, their relatives, and they have this small little network when they are uh, 3 or 5 years, in the country. So if that's what you're looking at, do share our details with your friends, family members. We'll be happy to support them as well. Over to you, Tina.
Yeah, nothing really a lot, but I guess all wanted to say was that congratulations. It's an exciting journey ahead of you. And as long as you know what you can and what you cannot do, I'm sure your journey would be very, very pleasurable. And you would be able to get to the, the final sort of goal that you have created for yourself. And if you ever are in doubt, just ever in doubt, just pick up that phone and contact us and connect with us before you take any decision on whether you should work more, whether you should change your course, where do you want to be working extra hours, whether you should take up this job, how can you get your residence, how you can get your post study work visa. Any of those questions, we are always there to help you. And in New Zealand, you actually need to have a licensed immigration advisor to do all this work, even if it is a student visa. Whilst offshore they are exempt, if you are in New Zealand, then even then you have to go to a licensed advisor. So you've already created that rapport, you already know what we look like, you know where we are based. So please make use of all of this information and connect with us before you take any decision, because whilst it may not be so difficult, but you need to be correct. So yeah, so thank you all of you, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Miss Vandana. Thank you, Miss Tanuva. So, with this, thank you all of you. We look forward to seeing you in New Zealand and wish you all the best in your studies and future endeavors. Thank you again for your time and have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. Fly safe, take care, and safe travels. Goodbye.